We blew up another V8, guys. So now we need to do another engine swap on the almighty 190. First, we need to remove the old engine that got blown into pieces. I blame the Mercedes engineers for this. They should have put a warning label on these engines from factory. How else are you supposed to know that you can't raise the rev limit and boost it up to 800 horsepower with stock internals? We spent weeks in the research and development phase for this project, and I made sure to print out the instructions before we got started. I also mounted a camera up on the wall because I thought it would be a cool camera angle. But I see now in edit that I look kind of stupid with a camera on my head. After we removed all the cable and pipes, we could begin to lift out the engine. Since this car is built for track days, the engine and all surrounding parts are mounted for a quick replacement. We had some small issues with the engine angle, mainly caused by some brain damage, but we solved it with some extra violence. Finally, we could stand back, be proud of an hour of good work, and feast on a beautiful, well-deserved pineapple pizza. Back in the garage, we did a quick check on the damages on the blown engine.
Åh nej, nu ska vi se här. Här har vi skulle haft en, har du en liten ficklampa? Åh nej. Så ska vi inte ha det.
Nej, det är fan så.
Nej. Dags för service.
Then it was time to bring out the new engine and check how well it would fit into the Mercedes engine bay. First up was the distance around the back of the engine. Luckily, we had another gearbox flange laying around in the garage that we could use for some simple testing.
Frågan är det typ är det 30 cm eller 25 kanske?
Ja, jag skulle gissa på 30 där. Ska jag hämta något att mäta med eller? Next up was the oil sump and the engine mounts, but we decided that it was too boring to measure, so we test mounted it instead. As you can see, it was a pretty tight fit in the back, but plenty of spaces in the front and on the sides. The only small issue would be around the subframe, but we thought that changing the subframe to another model might solve this problem. When you're doing an engine swap, you want the engine as far back as possible for weight distribution and for traction. But too far back and it gets way more difficult to service the engine.
En E30-balk då, så jag får fram styrväxeln lite grann. Nej, det är tvärtom. Det här är en E30. Det är en E36-balk jag ska ha.
We didn't get any smarter by looking at the subframe of the engine swapped E30, so we went outside to look under the carbon hood of the E36 instead. This didn't make us any smarter either, so we did as usual and just pushed that issue to the future. It's not uncommon with subframe issues during engine swaps, and we always solve it one way or another. To begin, this V8 swap looks like a perfect match, but the more we discussed it, some other future problems were popping up. This engine has roughly 400 horsepower, so mounting it in a very light and old Mercedes without any kind of electronic stabilization or traction control would make it very boring without turbo boost.
Kolla här. Så kanske. Och så vrida det lite då så att den går neråt där såklart.
As you can see by my Italian sign language here, we discussed and tested several different positions of single and double turbo setups, but we didn't find any position that felt right. The easiest way to get this car running would be to skip the V8 turbo altogether and just throw a Volvo B230 engine into the engine bay instead. Something like the engine swap the guys did here in the garage last year. Especially if we used it with one of the B230 ECU adapters we already developed and manufactured ourselves for our webshop. But since Thor is working full-time as an engine tuner, I know he wants something a bit more special in his own car. Also, this car has already had BMW engines and Mercedes engines for a couple of seasons now, so I think it would be fun to try something else now. I'd also like to end this video with some humble brag. We've been in this garage for a couple of years now, and finally I can change the number on this board, which hopefully will make the safety guy from the union very happy.